Somebody come look at this. Oh! Look at this.
Y'all, we just stumbled into the most unhinged, most disturbing corner of medical TikTok, and the internet is absolutely losing it.
You look sad, but I don't like that. I'm going to fix it. Open your hands.
Meet Sarah Bird, a self-proclaimed certified nursing assistant, actively employed, or at least that's what she wants you to believe. And if you haven't seen her on your For You page yet, consider yourself lucky, because once you see it, you literally cannot unsee it.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday.
I genuinely debated whether to even make this video, because what I'm about to show you is one of two things. Either the most unhinged, most committed roleplay account the internet has ever seen, or an actual real-life crime being recorded and posted from inside a functioning hospital. And to be honest, I still don't know which is worse.
Don't look at me with those eyes.
What eyes?
So let's go back to the very beginning. The one video that threw the entire internet into Sarah Bird's world and made sure none of us could look away. She calls it the battle between her inner angels and demons every morning. Two versions of herself going back and forth. One trying to stay professional, keep her job, act like a normal human being. And the other one is actively debating whether to walk into a patient's room and ask to examine his morning erection. The angel is begging her to use common sense. The demon is telling her to throw every boundary she's ever had straight out the window. You watch that and your first instinct is to dial HR directly. Thankfully, most people weren't taking this as a cute little joke. People were genuinely terrified at the thought that she might actually be allowed anywhere near real hospital beds. They started playing internet detective, desperately trying to figure out if her CNA certification was real. But hey, this wasn't just a shock value video, it was a trap door. Because once the algorithm pushed this to millions of people, they clicked straight through to her profile to see what else she was up to. And what they found proved this was not a one-off joke. In fact, that Morning Wood video wasn't even close to the worst thing on her page. It was basically just the PG-13 trailer for an absolute nightmare of a catalog. You won't fully understand who Sarah Bird is until you sit with the body of her work. And I promise you, every single time you think you've hit rock bottom with this woman, she's gonna hand you a shovel for more digging. People were genuinely losing their minds trying to process what they were watching. Now, this next one actually made me stop scrolling. The caption didn't immediately register in my brain, so I had to watch it twice. Then I looked a little closer at what was actually smeared on her face, and my stomach physically dropped. I don't even know how to say this without throwing up a little bit. Turns out that what our scrub-wearing villain is heavily suggesting here is that a patient finished on her face while she was clocked in at work on an active shift inside a medical facility, and she thought it was a brilliant idea to record it and post it on the internet for millions of people to see. And it's almost like she has this weird obsession with morning erections. It's a full-blown cinematic universe on her page. It makes it seem like checking for patient arousal is a mandatory medical procedure that's normal. Just look at the caption she slaps on these videos. What if patients just have morning woods because they don't get loved by anyone? Have you ever thought about this? No, because everyone just thinks about themselves. When the patient has a morning wood and you don't know if he's throwing hints, or it's just because of the morning. You come over to chit-chat with the patient, but he has a morning wood. It's crazy that she's out here trying to make morning erections sound deep and philosophical. Like this is a Tumblr post from 2014, not a healthcare worker describing her shift. And it's not like she doesn't know what she's doing is a crime that could get her thrown in jail, but jokes about it anyway.
Hey man, it's Freak Pop.
She's just so far gone in her delusion that she thinks that she's actually doing the world a favor by taking care of these patients' morning woods. Now, at some point, someone must have told her that the content was getting a little too repetitive, because our medical menace suddenly decided to switch it up and post an educational video. Yeah, a CPR tutorial, which is something constructive, right? something that demonstrates actual medical knowledge, right? Well, allow me to introduce Sarah Bird's life-saving technique, which you should never, under any circumstances, try on an actual human being.
Code cunt. Med surge.
The rhythm alone is dangerous. When you perform chest compressions on someone in cardiac arrest, you need to hit 100 to 120 beats per minute, no exceptions. It's why real medical professionals are literally taught to use the beat of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees because the tempo is perfect. But the Florence Nightingale of OnlyFans is definitely not doing that. She's bouncing on this dummy at a speed that would literally flatline a healthy person. If you followed the rhythm in her video to perform CPR on a real person, you would not be saving them. You'd just be participating in a weird, sweaty ritual over their unconscious body while they continue to die. But honestly, the rhythm isn't even the main problem here. The main problem is how she's sitting. Real CPR requires you to kneel beside the patient. Interlock your fingers, lock your elbows, and push straight down using your body weight. You do not sit on the patient. You do not face their feet. You do not mount their head and bounce up and down in a way that looks significantly more like a crime than an attempt to keep someone alive. But here's the thing, we're not even close to being done, because Sarah Bird didn't stop there. She kept going, and somehow it got worse. She made a whole series around combative patients, multiple videos, and every single one got more unhinged than the last. So here's a quick context. A combative patient is a serious medical term. It means a patient who gets physically violent with hospital staff. We're talking ERs, psych units, ICUs. These are people who are scared, confused, reacting to medication, or in full psychiatric crisis. Nurses get hurt dealing with this, like seriously hurt. They get PTSD from this. And there are entire training programs just for handling these situations safely. But here is Sarah Bird's official de-escalation technique. Then there's the one where the patient breaks out of his restraints. He's supposed to be a danger to everyone in that room, right? And her solution, or should I call it the brilliant strategy, is just to sleep with him too.
Okay, I understand it now.
I've gone back and forth in my head trying to find any possible angle where that makes sense. There is no angle. You do not handle a violent patient by hooking up with them. But she loved this so much, she just kept coming back to it in multiple clips, with the exact same wild resolution.
And so what if I do?
And then she just moves on to the next thing on our list. Do you realize what she's saying? That literally means she's touching herself in the next room while her coworkers are fighting for their lives trying to restrain someone. If that is the actual protocol at whatever hospital she claims to work at, I need the name of that facility immediately so I never ever step foot inside of it. And somehow we're still not done, because the combative patient series was just one chapter. She has a whole syringe series too, where she pretends to accidentally drop a syringe on her foot, heavily implied to be some kind of powerful sedative, and it knocks her out cold on the hospital floor. And then the scenario that plays out while she's passed out on the hospital floor is exactly what you think it is in this twisted universe. Now we have to talk about the hand, because it comes up constantly, and if you've spent any time on her page, you already know exactly what I mean. Sarah Bird has dysmelia. She was born with one fully developed hand, and instead of just living with it, she weaponizes her own physical condition to make the most unhinged, kinky punchlines you've ever heard. She explicitly references what she can and cannot do with patients with her fully developed hand, which she proudly calls her strong hand. There are literally clips where the choice of hand is the entire punchline. She's taken a physical characteristic she was born with and turned it into a running gag in a series of clips about allegedly performing acts on patients that would legally be assault. It's just wild. But wait, because we're moving locations. She eventually gives us a tour of the donation room, the sperm donation clinic. the exact place where male patients go to do what we should call their most highly private business in a cup, and she presents herself as the nurse who plays a very direct, very hands-on role in that collection process. Here she hits us with this split-screen clone trick again. Suddenly there are 3 versions of her standing in the donation room, all ganging up to assist one single patient with his appointment. But ignore the cringe acting for a second. Look at the background. In this clip and the ones that follow, the camera pans out. You can look past her and see a corridor. There are ward doors. There's a medical stretcher parked against the wall. This is institutional architecture that you cannot just build in your basement for a TikTok video. Anyways, we're going to circle back to that corridor, so keep it in your mind. Then she posts again, implying that she wants to be our CNA. But hold on a second and put yourself in her patient's shoes. What would you do? I'll tell you exactly what my next move is. My next move is pulling the fire alarm, calling the nursing board, filing a massive lawsuit, and running out of the building. That's my next move. Well, as if she hadn't done enough, she went ahead to introduce us to the 4th hole. Look at this comment, literally begging for an explanation. Because honestly, I don't know what the 4th hole is either. I literally stared at my ceiling for 10 minutes thinking about it. I reviewed basic human biology, trying to identify a 4th hole that makes any kind of clinical sense, and I cannot do it. The 4th hole remains a complete mystery, and honestly, I think that might be for the best. Because whatever it is, she claims she teased a patient with it until he started tweaking.
All right, I'll catch you later, bro.
See you, bro.
So, same time tomorrow?
Tweaking. A patient in a hospital bed is literally tweaking because his nurse is playing games with him using a phantom 4th hole. You cannot make this up. And at this point, the checklist basically writes itself. Using her patient as a literal replacement for a operator, check.
She's a freaky young gal, a bisexual, but a hustler.
Sleeping with a patient before the doctor even gets in the room to see them. Got it.
Where's Latrell?
Dance floor.
Cleaning the patient up just so she can get with them right after? Yup. Playing a game of physical touch with her patients? She's also involved. She even pulls the autism card, claiming her patients match her autism while she acts out these completely unhinged, inappropriate scenarios. Look at this one. When the patient is enjoying the tongue work a little too much and he starts aggressively grabbing my hair. She's literally bragging about this. Oh, and let's not forget the video of her touching herself while actively watching the live CCTV security camera feed of the patient's rooms.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200.
At some point, you just run out of words. Like there is genuinely nothing left to say after that. Meanwhile, it's not like she's been spared from the chopping block on these social apps. This girl has been banned from TikTok more times than I can count. YouTube terminated her. Instagram wiped her out. But every single time the ban hammer drops, she respawns. Literally, within hours, she pops up under a brand new username with all her old videos already locked and loaded. That level of dedication to posting content that gets you banned is honestly its own kind of unhinged. Just look at the number of backups she has on Instagram. We found Med School Muse, Sarah 2002, Soft CNA Birdie, Cute Sarah Nurse, Sweetbird CNA, and CNA by Heart. Plus the backups for the backups. 7 accounts on one single platform. And those are the only ones people actually found. Every single one posting the exact same content, feeding the exact same algorithm over and over again. But then there's Twitter, and this is where it gets genuinely interesting, because on Twitter, her whole energy shifts in a way it never does on TikTok or Instagram. On Twitter, or X, whatever Elon wants to call it today, the whole naughty nurse persona largely moves into something else there. We're now introduced to what she looks like behind the masks, and the content there is mostly just personal filler. She pivots super hard into engagement farming. She posts about being sober, clearly trying to farm sympathy likes. She constantly posts about the size of her chest, begging men in the replies to validate her and asking if they like it. She literally calls them her small power puffs. Then she pulls the ultimate sad girl card. She claims guys reject her because of her dismal A cups, literally begging people to feel bad for her. I'm just an ugly nurse. Why doesn't anyone support me? This is textbook engagement farming to drive clicks. But let's bring it back to the videos, because there's one specific visual detail I keep coming back to, and we need to talk about it, seeing that it adds a layer to this story which will make everything significantly, horrifyingly darker if you follow the logic, and that is the mask.
5, 4, 3, 2.
In multiple videos, the medical mask she wears on her face is way too small. It isn't a standard adult mask. It's a pediatric mask. Specifically, the kind of mask kept in the children's intensive care unit. Let that sink in for a moment. If she is genuinely a real CNA clocked in and working in an ICU, and if that mask is a pediatric mask because she works in the children's intensive care unit, then she's going on her break from caring for critically ill children to film content about actually assaulting adult patients and posting it publicly on the internet for money.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday.
Well, eventually, the internet reached a boiling point. People didn't just want to watch her be cringy, they wanted justice. They wanted her fired, banned, and investigated by the medical board. And our weird content creator noticed that the heat was turning up. So what did she do? She gave the people exactly what they wanted. She released a video of herself allegedly getting caught and fired.
A certified nursing assistant was suspended after security footage showed her engaging in provocative acts inside an ICU. Officials confirmed the videos were linked to an adult platform, with legal action now pending.
But you guys, the cracks in this video are so massive that you could drive an ambulance through them. Let me break down the plot holes. First, she's suddenly filming in a completely different room. A room we have never seen anywhere on her page before. If this was real, genuine leaked footage of her actually getting caught at work, why are we in a brand new location? Where did her usual set go? That alone should have people raising their hands. But then look at her pants. There's a massive rip in her scrubs, right on the trouser leg. And given everything we've already seen on this woman's page, that rip is not an accident. She built an entire backstory into the costume before the camera even started rolling. She's telling you exactly what she wants you to think happened right before that footage begins. It is staged. Every single inch of it is staged. This was a calculated PR stunt. She felt the internet closing in, so she gave them what they wanted, a firing video, knowing that millions of people would share it, screenshot it, tag their friends in it, and debate whether it was real. In essence, she used her own audience's genuine anger as rocket fuel to go viral one more time. And of course, people were beating it up, debating if it was real, tagging their friends. It was engagement farming, using her audience's own genuine frustration as the fuel to go viral again. And it completely worked. And that stunt actually forces us to finally ask the question that's been kind of sitting underneath all of this since the very first clip. The question we've been dancing around since minute 1. Because depending on the answer, this whole story either gets a lot funnier or a whole lot darker. Is Sarah Bird a real nurse? Now, let's build the case, starting with the argument that she is absolutely, genuinely, terrifyingly real. The corridor. That is the main receipt. Clip after clip. When the camera pulls back past the door, you see a real hospital hallway. Fluorescent lights, medical stretchers parked against the wall, open doors showing actual patient rooms in the background, and sometimes even patients. Now look, you can go online right now and rent a fake hospital room. Production companies do it all the time. Bed, IV stand, monitors, lights, the whole setup. But you know what you cannot rent? An entire functioning multi-room hospital corridor. That belongs to a real medical facility. If you're standing in that hallway making TikToks, you are inside a working hospital, period. And it's not just one corridor. She films in multiple different rooms and hallways across her entire catalog. If all this is a rented movie set, her production budget would be higher than a Netflix pilot. For a TikToker charging $300 on OnlyFans, the math just does not add up. Then there's the badge. In one clip, she's holding what looks like a real hospital ID. You can't read the name, but the format and the placement matches exactly how actual ICU staff wear them. Could it be a prop? Sure. But a prop badge worn inside what appears to be a real hospital corridor in multiple videos across multiple locations? The receipts are stacking, don't you think? But the internet was not convinced. People started going frame by frame, pixel by pixel, trying to prove it was all just a very elaborate green screen. And then there is the children's mask. I keep coming back to it because I can't let it go. A pediatric ICU mask is not a Halloween prop. You can't just grab one off Amazon or pick it up at a costume shop. It is a very specific piece of equipment that belongs to a very specific unit in a very specific type of hospital. If she bought it as a prop, she knew exactly what to look for and where to find it. But if she's wearing it because she literally works in that unit, that's the much simpler explanation. And it's the one that keeps me up at night. But now let's look at the other side too, because the people arguing that this is all fake, they have some genuinely strong points too. Yes, hospital rooms can be rented. The cost is high, but it's not impossible, especially for someone with a large OnlyFans subscriber base and a steady income stream. If the room is a rental and the corridor footage is just from a real hospital visit at some point in her life, the whole setup could theoretically be stitched together like a movie set. And the badge? You can absolutely order a convincing fake one online if you're motivated enough. Then the detectives started going deeper. Someone clocked the flooring. Real hospitals do not use laminate wood floors. They're unsanitary and not up to medical facility standards. And her videos supposedly have laminate floors, which either means it's a rented room or a green screen set built to look like one. And then someone also clocked the equipment. In one of her videos, there's an auto transfusion machine sitting right next to the bed. That machine has one job. It lives in operating theaters and pumps blood back into patients during surgery. You would never ever see one just parked next to a basic ward bed. So the argument is that you just bought random cheap medical equipment, threw it in a room, and called it a hospital, which honestly would track. Some people even say she's a total fraud who wouldn't even have the time to film if she was actually working a real shift. And another says she probably does not actually act like that at a real job, and this is all just an online persona. But after going through every single piece of this, I cannot fully buy the fake explanation. Everything else has a possible alternative reading. The corridor does not, and that corridor is the one thing I cannot explain away.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level up, level up, level up, level up, level up, level up.
And I genuinely, truly hope I'm wrong. Because if I'm not, that means somewhere right now, there is a functioning ICU where this woman has been clocking in, completing 12-hour shifts, caring for some of the most vulnerable people alive, and then walking to the break room to film content about them, while the people in those beds have absolutely no idea. But here's another thing. Even if every single frame of this was shot on a rented movie set, the damage is already done, because it is sick regardless. Real hospital or Hollywood set, it is sick. Victims of assault are in the comments talking about how triggering it is to watch someone treat medical vulnerability like a punchline. And this person puts it in a way that hits really hard. They bring up a doctor who is jailed for secretly photographing female patients and point out that content like this normalizes exactly that kind of behavior. That even if this specific case is rage bait, the real version of this happens. It has happened. And people like Sarah Bird make it easier to dismiss. But on the other end of the internet, there are people who are fully enthusiastically on her side, practically begging to be admitted to her ward. One tweet reads that a man wakes up in his hospital room, sees Sarah Bird listed as his nurse on duty, puts his head back on the pillow, closes his eyes, and thinks to himself, there is a God. And sadly, he's absolutely not alone. And it is exactly people like that who are keeping her OnlyFans very much alive. Let's read the actual bio she wrote for her subscription page. Sarah, available now. Tiny, big, and hands that know exactly what they're doing. Some things about me are a little different, but working with bodies all day means I give very personal care. I film dangerously cute and kinky medical content, checkups that cross the line, teasing exams, and the kind of attention you won't forget, looking for gentle guys who want long chats and care that's just for them. Text me hand model if you read this far. But I really need you to pay attention to that last line. Text me hand model if you read this far. That's not a cute little Easter egg. That is an onboarding flow. She's built a verified intake process for her OnlyFans. After you subscribe, you're supposed to DM her those exact words to confirm you actually read the bio. She designed a kinky little secret handshake into the new subscriber experience, and she did it on purpose. This is not someone who accidentally fell into content creation. She has thought about the sales funnel. She's mapped out the entire psychological journey from a horrified TikTok viewer all the way to a paying subscriber. And she's put deliberate, calculated little touches on every single step of it. And look at the pricing strategy, $3.60 for a 31-day subscription. Because medical bills are crazy. $3.60, that's the price of entry. And I know that sounds like almost nothing. That's exactly the point. $3 is not a financial decision. $3 does not make you pause. It does not make you open your banking app or think twice. It's less than a vending machine snack. It's the kind of money your brain does not even register as real spending. And she knows that. She counted on it. And the math works out just fine for her. Because if enough people are willing to drop $3 just to solve the mystery, just to find out what is actually on that page, it adds up to a very serious paycheck. The TikTok content, the Twitter posts, the bio, the hand model password, all of it exists for one single reason: to make you curious enough to spend $3. That's the whole machine. TikTok builds the curiosity, OnlyFans is where the curiosity goes to die. That means there is a functioning intensive care unit in the Midwest where a woman is clocking in for a shift. And somewhere just 15 miles away from that hospital, a guy in his phone just watched her TikTok about morning wood checkups, paid her $3 on OnlyFans, and sent her the password hand model. And right down the hall from where she's standing, there are patients in vulnerable medical states who have absolutely no idea who is really taking care of them.
I told a 19-year-old to relax when he came in for a prostate exam because he's been so stressed out about his life, his job, and of course the prostate exam, everything in general. He was so stressed out. So I said to him, you just have to relax. Anyways, he came everywhere in my office.